All right, let's go over how we're going to, how I'd recommend searching for backgrounds. Number one, start searching for these individual things with the PNG at the end of them, and you'll have these things come up. Always under Tools, work under Large, Size, and oops, let's go back. And then click on it, right? Typically what I do is you gotta wait for it to load, and then you go to like View Image, or if that doesn't load nicely, let me try that again. We'll just save image as and see how that works. Some of these are like protected, some of these are not. Yeah, sometimes you just have to wait for it to load sometimes, it's weird. And then save image as, right? I generally, if they're gonna send me to all these different websites, especially Pinterest, I do not use those because it's not worth my time. And then we'll see how that came in. Was it this one? I forget. Yep, there it is. And so yeah, if it's here, you're a success. It's great, it works. If it's not, and you have to bring it in with a white texture, that's okay too. It's easy to get rid of the white. Let me show you how to get rid of the white real quickly. You just go to Select. You're going to go to Select Color Range, and then click on the white, right? And then you have all the white, and you can increase the fuzziness to get more of the white, less of the white, whatever you think you need. Hit OK. You have all the white. I want to actually have all the non-white, so I'm going to select the inverse. And then I would usually come up here and do a select and mask so I can kind of see what's going on, right? Maybe turn this on to overlay on black or whatever. Crank that opacity up if you want, and then see. So this is a low res image, so that's not as nice, but you get the idea. And then at the very bottom here, I would set this to be output to new layer. And let's remember these settings. And so now I've cut this out, right? And that's a lot faster than cutting out a tree from a background. And I think there's plenty of trees here. And as I thought about it, I have a bunch of ones that I've used for some work that I've done. So I can just also give you those after you've done some of this. So I have this thing full of these trees and flora. There's not a ton, but there's some, and you can use those as you need it. Got some with ferns. So yeah, take this, use this along with the ones you get. I also got one that was let's see here, get rid of you, new. Let's see here. There we go. Got one with a shopping cart. So yeah, Rory, start thinking about like making these interesting collages with these things that exist. So this was a shopping cart that was a PNG. Didn't have to cut any of that out. Saved me a ton of time. And so, combine these with something. So I have this tree over here. Move this guy. Might be easier to move this guy over here. And then just start collaging these, right? So like, why not, get a crashed car. Why are you not set to whatever? Jesus. Oh my God. So I don't know. Yeah, to be honest, I don't use, there's a reason I don't use the current usage of Photoshop. Yeah, start combining these, right? And making them look cool. If you need to make your canvas or your size bigger, go to canvas size and just make it bigger. Don't make things smaller. All right? So now you can play around with that. And then you can start playing around with your adjustments. And what's nice is you don't have to combine these because you can just play around with that. And so I think you were doing something with a hue saturation. So you can colorize that to make them all look cohesive. I don't know, I forget what you're doing, green, whatever. Turn down the darkness. You can really pump this down too, so it makes it hard to kind of exactly clear what it makes out. And I think I would recommend doing a adjustment layer. Let's see here. So we're going to, nope. I have to put a blur on both of those maybe, huh? Let's see here, if we wanted to blur it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab both layers and I'm going to duplicate them so I have them, and then combine these. Merge those layers, turn these guys off, and then I can blur it. Typically with just a Gaussian blur, I think is fine. This way you have these that you can always go back and work on them, right? Play around with the blur, whatever you think, right? And then I think you were going to add a posterize effect, which I think would work also. So just kind of maybe find, maybe something far away should have fewer levels, and then something closer should have more levels, right? And then that's good. And if you're excited about that, you think it's good, what I would do is I would just crop it down a little bit so that they don't have to have a big file. Get that nice and tight. Looks like it will jump to the very edge, which would help the video game people. And then just save this as a PNG, right? So save as PNG cart tree, right? I mispronounced it, I don't care. And then at the end, once you get like a sum on one layer, put them together on one sprite sheet and then give that to the people. But maybe show them this right away. Hey, what do you think of that? What do you think of this? When it comes time for some caves, right? Again, I actually have a bunch of cave stuff too that I can give you that I've cut out. But let me show you how I would cut this stuff out. So you just search for stalactite or stalagmite, and you of course use this quick selection tool and just paint out the area you want. Right? Don't search for, I wouldn't search for a cave. I would search for stalactite and stalagmite, and not the plural version either, because you want one or two at a time. But you get this. Always, go up and select and mask and see what it looks like. If you want to make some adjustments, you can make some adjustments. But this is rock, so it shouldn't make too big of a difference. And then I always output to new layer, hit OK, and then it's by itself here, right? And then what I did here is I just did some other things with hue and saturation and posterize. And then, yeah, again, blur. Make a duplicate of this so that you have one to go back at. If you decide that you blurred it too much, you didn't blur it enough. And then just go up to filter and blur and Gaussian blur. And I assume you'll find, like, after you talk with everybody, like, yeah, we like that level of blur. Remember that. Write it down. And so you know that, hey, this plane is this amount of blur. Maybe the back plane, if it's really far away, is that amount of blur. Or maybe they're all the same. Again, something that you guys have to decide. Hit OK, crop it, save it as a PNG, ready to go. All right? And that should be all the individual things. Keep them individual. I would work on them one at a time in one space. Or you could make a huge file like I have done with the caves, which I can show you in a second here. Dun, 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 dun. Like I made a stage for a giant After Effects project, right? And so all of these it's a huge file, right? But then I got all these individual things that I can kind of move around and place. So don't be afraid to work with a large Photoshop file and kind of place these things how you want. But I would do that later. So I would save it as a PNG and then bring all those PNGs into a file, because then you don't have to worry about like these adjustment layers, right? Because these adjustment layers I think get kind of confusing if you have a lot of them. So it's better to have it saved how you like it as a PNG. Bring that into another sort of stage and just kind of set them up and see what they look like together to make sure that, hey, you're happy, they look good, and then you can just kind of imagine how they're going to parallax. When it comes to doing the tiles, I would just search for, what did I do? Rock texture, right? So I assume rock texture, ground texture, whichever one you like, it doesn't matter. And then I bring that into Photoshop. I'm going to use this effect, this filter, other, and offset. And I'm going to have it wrap around horizontally, and you'll see the line. And then I'm also going to have it wrap around vertically, so you see both lines. And then you're just going to fix those. And the easy way to do that is probably just to use this Band-Aid tool. I'm using open parentheses to make a bigger brush, and then just paint, right? And that's should be set to content aware. Content aware works great. It will also help you get rid of, you see there's a little bit of a watermark there, so you can get rid of all that crap. And that's it, man. Like, that's pretty cool. You can do this a few times, do that filter again to make sure that while you were doing that, it didn't make another line somewhere, right? And just come in here and fix that. And so once you've done that, man, this is tiled. This is ready to go. And so I would figure out one tile, go through all the processes of adding the saturation, the adjustments, if you want to posterize it, I'm not sure, but get all that done and have this as tile, the rock tile, right? And then when it comes time to do the grass, you could just likewise look for grass and plop it on here on the top, and then just remove this top part here. So like I could just come in here, I'm gonna unlock it, delete that, deselect, and then bring your grass in here. And so I'm just gonna paint just to be faster here. And so you can either paint, you can find grass, right? And then and then you should be good, right? This should be a nice tile. You can again go to that filter, and I don't want to obviously do it up and down, right? So I'll put that to 0. And just to see that I'm okay, and I'm not, so I can fix that, right? And then I would actually go back 1. So I'll show you what I mean. So I was set to 514. If I do it negative 514, I should go back to that original position, and that will match the rest of the other tiles, right? And that should be it. So now they have a top tile. They have tiles if they show lots of rocks, and that should be it. You might have to do the same for the left or the right tile, but we can work on that as we go. Okay, I think that should be it. If any questions, let me know.